and this is also known as the R for EPIs project. As you can see, I have a lot of collaborators on here. I'm the one in blue, but the ones in the really stupid font are going to be the ones who are collaborators on this project and are actually here. So that's going to be Thibaut and Dirk. We're doing this project, the R for EPIs project, because we want to support field epidemiologists. So field epidemiologists are essential in the field for informing the response to an outbreak. Because they're the ones who are actually going out into the field and helping collect data and also reporting that data to the decision makers who decide where resources need to be allocated to help out with the response, if more beds need to be allocated to a certain area or if vaccines need to be shipped over. And ideally, for field epidemiologists, they want to be in the community as much as possible. Because when they're in the community, then they can get the context to be able to understand what the data is telling them. If you give someone data based on an outbreak and they don't have any context, they might make the wrong decision. So getting context is important. And so the idea is you spend most of your time collecting data, you write up a little report, and then you make decisions based off of that report. But unfortunately, the reality is that most of the time, a lot of the time of the field epidemiologist is spent collating data, entering data, and that's not even half of it. It's cleaning data and it's trying to understand where things went wrong. It's creating reports. So you have an epidemiologist, and I'm not as good as Elton Horst, this is my own drawings, but you have an epidemiologist with all their data and they know they need to enter it. They're perfectly fine with that. And then they need to go ahead and create figures and tables and make sure that all the data looks correct. That if something small looks a little off, they need to go back to the data managers and check to make sure that that's all correct. And that all takes time. And in the end, they end up spending an entire day to create a report over a week. And then the very next week, they have to do that all over again, and it is frustrating. I've talked to several field epidemiologists, and they find this one of the most frustrating parts of their job because they find it wasted time for them to have to just do all of this over and over and over again. And the idea is that this is the situation we have now. Most of their time is spent preparing the reports, but what we want is we want field epidemiologists to be able to spend most of their time collecting data and making decisions and automate what we can in the reports. And so that's where the R Epidemics Consortium and MSF, that's Doctors Without Borders, and I can't pronounce the French, I'm sorry, came together to get funding from the Sapling Nursery Grant, which gives support to field epidemiologists to go for new projects. And we created the project called the R for EPIs project, which is trying to not only create automated reports for field epidemiologists, but also create educational materials for field epidemiologists to switch over to R, instead of having to use a conglomeration of Stata, Excel, and other statistical software that has to be done manually. I have links for more information. My slides are available online, and they'll be available after the conference. And I'm not going to be talking about the entire thing here because there's way too much to talk about. And what I want to emphasize is that this is a collaboration. And also, never take pictures at the end of a day-long conference because people look very tired. But I can assure you, this was a very enthusiastic collaboration. There were a lot of things. A lot of things got done at this meeting back in October between MSF and Recon. We had a lot of epidemiologists. We had a lot of we had programmers, we had data managers, and we had decision makers in the room and NGOs together trying to figure out what we can do to help with this. And so In addition to all the people that are authors, we also had other collaborators come in over the last few months that are listed up here. And I just really want to emphasize that this is a community effort, and I also wanted to put this here in case I run out of time, which I should not. But especially, I want to acknowledge the fact that Anik and Amrish were the ones who came up with the project and secured the funding. And Anik especially has been instrumental in organizing and coordinating and making sure that we kept on task. And then Alex, Lucas, Dirk, and Kate here helped to contribute massively to the automated templates and the code that's needed for it to work. Especially Alex was instrumental in coordinating the effort. And you're probably wondering what effort I'm talking about. So the whole goal was to take, one of the whole goals, it was to take these template reports that field epidemiologists are supposed to fill out every week and make them automated so that field epidemiologists can just simply enter their data, make sure it's correct, and click a button and get these reports. And we started out with outbreak reports on cholera, measles, meningitis, and acute jaundice syndrome, and survey reports for vaccination coverage, malnutrition, and retrospective mortality access to care, because these were these were situations that MSF continuously found themselves in. And also, these were the situations that were likely to have the best data so that we could actually have a good proof of concept. It's not to say that the data is perfectly clean. There are still flaws with it, but this was the most hopeful. And so what we came up with was a package called Sitrep that allows people to, that gives epidemiologists these templates to work with, and also the code behind it to make sure that their analyses are actually correct. There's a lot, the situation is that we want to start off with a lot of packages. We want to start off with packages that already existed on CRAN for epidemiological analysis. But we want to also make sure that they were usable and reliable. And unfortunately, one of the things that we found is that when we first searched for packages on CRAN, the vast majority of them were untested. So it was not we could not be certain that the results they would give us would be correct for every situation. And we often found that there were situations where packages would either fail to report any sort of zero counts, or sometimes we would have to even patch other packages to help out with situations where they would fail in certain situations. We also had other challenges such that there were no tools to, create aggregated weeks starting on any day of the week. Most of the time, you can aggregate weeks based on Sunday weeks or Monday weeks, but some countries use Saturday weeks. So we needed to create new packages for that. And in the end, we ended up with a relatively stable package. It's still in progress, but we have a package that generates these reports that has a load of instructions that field epidemiologists can work through. And it creates visualizations that field epis normally use, but are notoriously tedious to create for them, such as age pyramids and maps that actually indicate where you have no counts, which is areas you might want to revisit in the case that something's not right in there. So it would be daft of us to say that this package that we created is perfect, and that means that we can release it to all the field epidemiologists working with MSF to use in their practice, because we created this data with field epidemiologists, but we did not, thank you, we did not, we are only a small group. And so what we wanted to do was, on the 4th and 5th of July, so that was last week, we had a mini hackathon, and we had field epidemiologists all around the world log in through over a video conference, and we just sat down at our computers and we worked. And they had their own data that they ran through these templates, and they were willing volunteers. We twisted nobody's arm to do this, and their expertise with R ranged from knowing the very basic commands to having done full data analyses. And we just wanted to figure out what their responses were. So these are all the collaborators, all the people who actually helped out, which I'm very grateful for their efforts. And so what did we find? Well, we found when we went and recorded all the issues, and there were a lot, but for the most part, people were happy. Some of the issues that we run into is that a lot of working directory issues. Some people would try and read in their data, and they said, oh, can't find the data. It was easily fixed by using an RStudio project. Sometimes package installation on Windows notoriously fails because there was a package already loaded. The fix was to restart R. And then there was trying to match the columns of their data to the variables that were used in the situation report, and that unfortunately was exquisitely painful, which will hopefully be fixed when MSF switches over to a more standardized DHIS2 export system. Some more difficulties that we found were type errors in the code if columns were misformatted. If the field epi mistyped a filter rule, all the data would be dropped and they have to start again. And then there were also situations where they would have protected spreadsheets in which Read Excel could not import that. And it would require a package that requires RJava, which is impossible to install on any computer whatsoever. I don't know why it exists. But there were some good sides to it. So I really wish that thing weren't in the corner. But it's covering my smiley face. The responses we got back is that the templates did have very detailed and well-organized instructions, and it saved them time to do complex tasks. They liked the openness and customizability of the templates, and they really liked the technical support from both myself and Alex Spina, who were on the call. And the overall feeling is that they were happy with the directions that the reports were going in. And this is not over. We have funding until the end of the year, and we aim to see this project to the end. So we have a basic skeleton of templates, and now we need to kind of clean things up, make sure important functions get split off into well-maintained packages that can go on CRAN and be well tested. And we also need to go on to do future work for creating the educational resources for these templates. And that is creating case studies that are hosted on a website, and video tutorials to go along with these case studies, to move people along no matter what their level of R is. And then also MSF is planning on hiring dedicated technical support and maintenance for these templates. So that is the conclusion of my talk. And I'm really excited for this project to go on, and I'm really excited to keep working with field epidemiologists in this capacity. So if you want more information, we have a GitHub here. You can contact me on Twitter, and my slides are available. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions for Zhian? ask the questions, don't I?
You can't ask a question either?
I could.
I mean, if you want.
Thank you. No, it was very, very interesting, actually. You said you picked some of the diseases because they have the cleanest data on them. So what are the difficulties you envisage when you, because I guess you want to switch to other diseases as well. So what are the difficulties you envisage? Different type of format, more missing data?
It would be different type of format, different variables that would exist because there are symptoms that you would record for acute jaundice syndrome that you would not record for cholera. So it's just those kind of minor things that you would find, but also, yeah, they had those had the most standardized data sets. So if you, I don't know exact examples, but we did have some epidemiologists try data that was not associated with any of these diseases that we had templates for, and just use like a cholera template, and for the most part for them it worked as well. So there are commonalities between these templates, but we just wanted to make sure that we covered the major areas.
I just want to know how big or large is your group, or how many people working on this project?
There were a lot.
Did you have collaborations with other groups as well?
So it's a collaboration between MSF and Recon. MSF has, so the group is this big. The main, I guess what happens is that the main contributors have been, we've also gotten people to help contract out. So if you're, we've had contractors come in along the way who are knowledgeable about epidemiology and are keen to help contribute to the templates, either proofing them or testing their data out on them, or adding code and cleaning things up. So I think if I were to put a size estimate, we have about 30 people working on this. But on the core contributors, I would say we have about 5.
Okay.
So
Thank you very much.
And if you have any other questions, just contact me on Twitter.